You know that feeling when you get home after seeing someone and suddenly your brain decides to replay the whole conversation? Maybe it was something small. You made a joke and it landed badly. Maybe you said too much. Maybe you went quiet when you wish you had spoken, or someone gave you a strange look, or there was one awkward silence that lasted about 2 seconds. But your mind has turned it into a full investigation. You start thinking about what you said, what you should have said, and the annoying part is you know it is not helping. You know you cannot go back and change it, but you still replay it in your mind again and again. For some people, this is not just an occasional thing. It becomes a habit. Every conversation gets reviewed afterwards. Every message gets analyzed. Every facial expression gets picked apart. And after a while, being around people starts to feel exhausting, not necessarily because people are difficult, but because you are carrying every interaction home with you. So let's talk about how to stop doing that. Not by pretending you never feel embarrassed, not by forcing yourself to just be confident, but by changing what you do when your mind starts dragging you back into a moment that has already passed. Because the truth is, sometimes you did say something awkward. Sometimes you could have handled something better. That is perfectly normal. The problem is not making the mistake. The problem is deciding that one uncomfortable moment says something permanent about who you are. A lot of overthinking comes from wanting certainty. You want to know exactly what they thought of you, but most of the time, you cannot know what was going through the other person's mind. They may have thought nothing of it. They may have noticed and forgotten 5 minutes later. They may have had something completely different on their mind. And yes, sometimes people do notice when a conversation is awkward. That happens. We are all human. But even then, it does not mean the moment defines you. It does not mean you have ruined a relationship or everyone is secretly judging you. It means you had a slightly uncomfortable moment, like every other person on the planet. The trouble is, your mind does not always treat it that way. Your mind can turn a small social mistake into evidence. Evidence that you are not confident enough, not interesting enough, not respected enough, not good enough. And once your mind has decided that, it starts looking for more proof. That is why you can have 10 perfectly normal conversations and barely remember them, but one awkward one stays with you for days. You need to keep in mind that your brain is not always trying to be fair. It is trying to protect you. It thinks that by replaying the moment, it can prevent you from making the same mistake again. It is trying to prepare you. But there is a big difference between learning from something and punishing yourself with it. Here is a question worth asking when you catch yourself replaying a conversation. Am I actually learning something new here? Or am I just making myself feel worse? Sometimes there is a lesson to be learned. Maybe you interrupted too much because you were nervous. Maybe you were trying too hard to impress someone. Maybe you avoided saying what you really thought because you were worried about being judged. Once you have noticed the lesson, you do not need to keep digging. You do not need to revisit the same moment another 50 times. You would never tell a friend that they made one awkward comment on Tuesday, so now they need to carry it with them every night for the rest of the week. You would reassure them. You would remind them that one moment does not define who they are. So why do we struggle so much to give ourselves that same kindness? A lot of us are far harsher with ourselves than we would ever be with anyone else. We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to our children, our partner, our friends, or even a stranger. And somehow we call it self-awareness. Sometimes it is not self-awareness at all. Sometimes it is just self-criticism wearing a clever disguise. One of the first ways to break that pattern is to describe the moment plainly. For instance, instead of saying, "I completely embarrassed myself," try saying, "I felt awkward in that conversation." Or instead of saying, "They definitely think I'm an idiot," try saying, "I do not actually know what they think." That may sound small, but it changes everything. Because the words you use with yourself become the world you live inside. When you exaggerate the moment, your mind treats it like danger. But when you describe it clearly, you give yourself room to breathe. You are not lying to yourself. You are not pretending nothing happened. You are simply refusing to turn one uncomfortable moment into a punishment. And that is where real growth begins. Not from attacking yourself, not from replaying the mistake until it hurts, but from seeing the truth clearly, learning what you can, and still treating yourself like someone worth protecting. When you exaggerate the situation, your body reacts as though something serious has gone wrong. You feel tense. Your heart rate goes up. You want to fix it immediately. But when you describe it accurately, your mind has less to fight with. You are not pretending it did not bother you. You are simply refusing to turn it into something bigger than it was. One awkward moment is not a personality trait. One bad answer is not your whole character. One person misunderstanding you does not mean you are impossible to understand. Sometimes you just had an off moment, that is all. The second thing is this: give yourself a limit. You are allowed to reflect. You are just not allowed to live there. You might say to yourself, all right, I am going to think about this for 5 minutes. I will take the lesson from it, and then I am done. You can even write it down. Explain what happened. What would I do differently next time? What is one thing I can let go of? Then stop. Close the note. Get up, make tea, go for a walk, wash the dishes, do something physical. That matters because overthinking is not only happening in your head, your body gets involved too. You are sitting still, tense, staring at the same memory. Your body starts treating it like a threat that is still happening now. So you need to show your body that you are safe in the present. You can move, breathe slowly, put your feet on the ground, look around the room. Do something simple and real. It may sound basic, but it interrupts the loop. You are reminding yourself that conversation is over. I am here now. There is another habit that makes this worse, and most of us do it without noticing. We check our phones. You feel awkward after a conversation, then you start scrolling. You see people looking confident, happy, successful, socially effortless. You see couples looking perfect, friends laughing, people saying exactly the right thing, everyone appearing completely sure of themselves. And suddenly your ordinary human moment feels even worse. But you are comparing your private thoughts to somebody else's public highlight reel. That is never a fair comparison. Nobody posts the moment they got home and thought, why did I talk so much? Nobody posts the message they rewrote 6 times before sending. Nobody posts the strange silence, the nervous laugh, or the thing they wish they had said differently. But those moments happen to everyone. Even the people who look completely confident, especially them sometimes. So when you feel yourself spiraling after a conversation, do not go looking for more reasons to feel behind. Put the phone down for a bit. Give your mind some space to settle. Now I know what some people will say. What if I really did say something hurtful? What if I genuinely made a mistake? Then deal with it properly. If you need to apologize, apologize. If you need to clarify something, clarify it. If you need to have a difficult conversation, have it. But do it because it is the right thing to do, not because your anxiety is demanding one more attempt at controlling how people see you. There is a difference. Sincere apology is simple. It does not need a long explanation, 10 messages, or a desperate attempt to make the other person reassure you. You cannot force forgiveness. You cannot control whether someone understands your intention. You can only control whether you act with honesty and self-respect from this point on. That is enough. The deeper issue for many people is that they are trying too hard to be liked. They are trying to make sure nobody misunderstands them. Nobody feels disappointed in them. Nobody thinks badly of them. And that is an impossible job. You can be kind and still be misunderstood. You can be honest and still disappoint someone. You can show up with good intentions and still have an awkward moment. That does not mean you need to shrink yourself. It does not mean you need to become cold or careless. It just means you need to stop giving every person you meet the power to decide whether you deserve peace. You are allowed to be a work in progress in front of other people. You are allowed to learn social confidence slowly. You are allowed to say something imperfectly. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed not to have the perfect answer immediately. And you are allowed to leave a conversation without reviewing every second of it afterwards. So the next time your mind starts replaying an old conversation, try this. First, ask yourself what actually happened, not what you fear happened. What actually happened. Then ask whether there is a real lesson. And after that, bring yourself back to the present. Take a breath. Put your phone away. Do the next useful thing in front of you, because your attention is valuable. You do not need to spend it all trying to rewrite moments that are already over. You do not need to be perfect in every room. You just need to be someone who can make a mistake, learn from it, and carry on without tearing themselves apart. That is not weakness. That is emotional strength. And that is part of learning to lead yourself first. And before you go, let us know in the comments, what is one thing you are ready to stop replaying in your mind? Finally, remind yourself that you do not need to tear yourself apart to grow. You can learn, let go, and still be kind to yourself.